everyone needs to have the way to reboot their own mind.
Yeah.
No one's going to be shocked to know ours is humor.
Yeah, it is.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax, HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to episode 460 of the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs, and joining me is Donna Grindle with Carden. What's up, Donna?
Hey, trying to do everything we can to have a good day.
Yep. So we're like somewhere on the cusp of 9 years is this week, I think.
Yeah, it's like right in here, right around now, because, we recorded back long in the before times.
Yeah.
Before cyber attacks were constant, before COVID, just long ago.
Yeah. Just think about 9 years ago. I mean, honestly, it was a lot harder to put this stuff together 9 years ago than it is today.
I know. Well, we built all the systems, and now you could go out and we could sign up with some of these services, and we built all of this ourselves. And now it's just we already built it. Why not pay somebody? But it's definitely a whole different world. And, we let's try it. Let's record one, see what everybody thinks. And, send it around to a few folks. And they're like, y'all are idiots. Yep. That's what we were looking for.
Yeah, we're going to keep doing it. That's all we needed to hear. So it is worth also pointing out that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And because dealing with me for 9 years is enough taxing on anybody's mental health, we're going to do a little mental health thing. We're going to title this one "Battling Cyber Threats and Burnout."
Yeah,
because it is very, very stressful, not just in cybersecurity, but even if you don't feel like you're doing cybersecurity, which by the way you are, because everybody's on the cybersecurity team.
Yeah.
If you're doing anything in your organization trying to protect it from everything that's out there, it can become overwhelming and very stressful.
Yeah, because you have to be the one that really knows what's going on and dealing with the people who think you're overstating it.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember years ago, it was a long time ago, but I went into law enforcement. I watched cops on TV long enough that I was like, I want to do that. I want to chase people, and then you get the realization that law enforcement is not really about chasing people. It's about doing a bunch of paperwork.
Yeah.
But that aside, I recall coming home not long after I had been on the night shift, and I think it was my mom who said something like, well, how was your day yesterday? And I'm thinking to myself, there is no way I'm telling you anything that happened. Yeah. Because if you were remotely aware of what went on in this small town, you would move. Yeah. But you're not going to, you're probably still not going to move away from the problem. You'd just be another problem somewhere else. But just knowing and being exposed to what's out there in and of itself carries a lot of weight. Yes. And it's the same way in the cybersecurity world. When you know, when they say ignorance is bliss, it certainly is. But when you know what's going on and you know the risks and you know the threats and you know the bad stuff that's out there, by itself carries an immense weight.
Mm-hmm. And that it's your job to not let that intrude, shut down the business, risk patient lives, risk livelihoods, that whole big thing. I mean, there becomes a massive amount of pressure if you allow yourself to think about it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's cybersecurity and that's healthcare. So when you're doing cybersecurity and healthcare, yeah. So,
yeah, it's, years ago before I got into doing healthcare cybersecurity, I used to be able to say, it's okay, nobody's going to die. But I can't say that anymore.
Right. Yeah.
You know, you and I joke about a lot of things, but people do die because of cybersecurity issues.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I tell the story to this day to, you know, developers and anybody that's in IT to say, this is, you know, before all of this that we knew, way back in really the before times, in the previous century, when it was so cool, like right around the turn of the century, that's weird to say, but it is true. Right around the turn of the century is when I was working with the ambulance service, helping with some, you know, their billing software, and they were getting all this cool new technology where they had a GPS that would help them find people. And they had a computer, a laptop mounted, which granted was huge, mounted in their, you know, the front seats were becoming, insane at that point, because it was like, we need one for this, one for this, one for this. But they were so excited because they could look up drug interactions and find people with this new things. And they're showing it to me. And I'm like, you know what? I am so glad that I don't write code that does that, because people could die if I make a mistake. And he never skipped a beat. I'll never forget this guy. He never skipped a beat. He said, if you don't do your job where I can buy these things, people can still die.
Either way, you're on the hook.
Right. And so you just sit there, blink, 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 blink. So now that puts the pressure on me, because it really doesn't matter if the other guy screw up if I can't buy it in the first place. You know, so it was like a whole new way of looking at what I do. And the fact that when you're in healthcare, you really do need to evaluate what you're doing and see that it's not bits and bytes. It's not numbers. It's not just text on the screen. It's people and people's lives that you have so much responsibility for. And, you know, if you take that into account and then add the sheer level of threats that we face today towards our ability to do that, first of all, you feel the same way everybody else does of, why do these people do this? Well, they're criminals, number one, and they see it as bits and bytes and dollars. They don't see it as their potential family members.
Nope. It's just a money play most of the time.
You know, sometimes it's just to wreak havoc, but for the most part, it's a money play. And we know that. But with it, you know, being Mental Health Awareness Month, and I was frustrated with, I hadn't really, it's stressful to come up with a topic every week. Not because there aren't some, it's that you kind of decide on what you want to talk about. And what did you say when I said, I went through my list and nothing's working?
Yeah. I said that everything out there that people are talking about are things we've already been out there talking about, and we're just tired of talking about them. Yeah.
And that gets us into that whole conversation of, it doesn't help our mental health when we're up against people who fight us tooth and nail. I'm not telling you all I know. I'm telling you don't want to know what I know. And yeah, it's the same thing.
Yep. So we're going to get into all that. We might even rant a little bit. Who knows?
You never know. This is a roll of dice. We have no idea.
We're going to get into all that, but we've got some useful things that we'll bring up as far as some ways to help you guys out. And we're also going to introduce you to a new tool. So before we get into all that, we want to say thanks to all those who listen, who leave reviews, who donate, who help a brother out.
And a sister. And a sister.
You can find out everything about us by going to helpmewithhippa.com, because both Donna and I have day jobs that pay bills. And if it's something that you would like to hire us to do, then go check us out. Let us know. And we've had listeners take us up on that and become great clients. So go check us out. HelpMeWithHIPAA.com.
That's a whole nother thing. I had a great conversation about. I was at a couple of different conference presentations this past week, and somebody said, well, a podcast for 9 years, do you have sponsors? And I was like, we tried that, and then it became so complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Like for our target market, then we don't want to imply that we are endorsing something.
Yeah.
But we feel it's important what we're doing. And I mean, there you go. The pressure just keeps, it's like, I was like, it just stresses me out sometimes just thinking about those pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes.
Yeah. I've seen other podcasters where they're endorsing a product and then that product has a security breach.
Yeah.
And then they have to back away and say, can't endorse this product anymore.
Yeah.
Because again, that's what it is. It's not an advertisement. It's an endorsement.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about you. Well, I do know about you, and I'll probably accurate when I say this. You are very particular about who and what you put your name on.
Oh, my integrity is all I have.
Right. And so I'm very particular about that, which is why I don't give out very many referrals to people unless I really, really, really trust them. Because if I'm putting my name on it, it's got to mean something. Like you said, at the end of the day, it's all you got.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. And to say that not just I'm going to put my name on it, but I'm saying you should check this out,
right.
And so anytime though, I'll say, look, I've never done business with them. I don't know, but I've met them. They seem like good folks. I'm not hesitant to say that. But I will always clarify those things because I'm always worried that I could, set something up for failure that was that important.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the whole do your own due diligence thing.
Yes.
Because how many times have we heard people say, well, I'm dealing with this vendor because they do business with all these other people. I'm like, okay, that's great. But did you do your own due diligence? Because just because they're doing business with 100 other people like you doesn't mean that 100 other people did due diligence.
Right.
It probably means maybe one of those 100 did due diligence, or maybe none of them did. But you're making a huge assumption. It's like it's like a very large international company told me one time. We've had, I can't remember the exact number, but we've had like 50,000 IT companies sign this business associate agreement. You're the only one that's pushed back against this. And my thinking is, well, you've had 50,000 people that's not read it because they shouldn't have signed it.
Or don't understand it.
Right. Yeah. It's something. But, I didn't go in with the mindset of, well, I mean, they're a big, massive company, so I just need to sign it because everybody else did. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
Yeah.
So let's talk about battling cyber threats and burnout.
Yes. There's an article that you had found when we started talking about this of the importance of mental health and cybersecurity that it was an IBM study. But I think this is the core that we have to go to is 77% of cyber incident responders have a strong sense of duty to help and protect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the cyber incident responders, not the people who are doing the day-to-day protection.
Mm-hmm.
So that whole idea of reboot your mind was one of the titles that we were given when we asked for help from the AI, which is not wrong, but yeah, it's we use and everyone needs to have the way to reboot their own mind.
Yeah.
No one's going to be shocked to know ours is humor.
Yeah, it is.
Which we're having to put a link in because I shared with David, I did not know that he had not seen Beavis and Butthead Saturday Night Live with Ryan Gosling and Mick and Dave playing Beavis and Butt. It was comedy treasure. I will have forever that skit, and I've watched it. I can't tell you how many times, and just hurt. I was laughing so hard. I think I laugh harder every time because I know what's coming. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff we share with each other as much as we share the scary stuff.
Yeah.
And that you shared the case. And I think this was really another, I won't say eye-opening, but an awareness moment was the Netherlands case where the hacker started blackmailing the therapist who would, they steal the data, ransom it. The therapist doesn't, mental health professional, I'm not sure if it's there, mental health professional, they don't pay. And so then the hacker started blackmailing the patients.
Yep.
And that there's already at least one suicide tied to this.
Yep.
And, it happened in Europe, but if it's happening in Europe, it's, same kind of stuff's happening here. It's just as likely.
Yeah, I mean, you don't draw boundaries around cybersecurity.
No.
It doesn't matter where it happens. It still affects everything.
Yes. So that awareness is sometimes overwhelming. And if you are completely ignoring it and putting your head in the sand, that's wrong too. We're not saying that's by any means what we have to do. What we have to do is find the ways to balance and have our own mental health reboot as we need it, and make sure that our incident response plans have a plan, because that's at the peak of the stress, and you can't necessarily walk away, and you're dealing with absolute overwhelming, like the folks that Change Healthcare, as much as we, have been disappointed in the response, it's the response of the company, not the individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And the individuals have surely suffered because they were aware.
Yeah. I think that same IBM study, I don't remember the exact percentage, but I think it said like 81% of people that are those responders end up having to rely on some type of therapy. That's massive.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we all need to look at that realistically, and therapy, medication, whatever you need to handle the stress so that you can face it day in and day out. And it's like that constant, how the emergency room physicians must feel if it's like constant flow of patients, never a gap, never a break. The attacks are constant. You're just trying to figure out, is this the, where I'm going to have a major meltdown or not?
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing we need to do as a society is to reduce the stigma around mental health and wellness, because I know this is cliche, but it is okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
Because honestly, most of the time, most people are walking around not okay in some form or fashion. When you think about mental wellness being something as everyday as stress, when you feel stress, that is a mental health issue. Well, everybody feels stress. So everybody has, quote unquote, mental health issues or mental wellness issues. It doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you can't cope. You need to suck it up. It simply means that there's something going on that you need to address. Your body is telling you, it's fight or flight, or, you've got to do something.
And I don't hesitate to share. I mean, I have spoken many times that I struggle with depression and anxiety, and it's always something that I'm always having to work on. And I have never stopped working on it. And sometimes you do better than others, just like anything else. Sometimes I'm, better on, being quick to respond and know what we need to do than I am other times. Granted, mostly in the morning, not, but for the most part, understanding and knowing, okay, that's happening, and I need to deal with that, is absolutely the key to being able to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I was having to deal with is I didn't have anything ready. I didn't, and I was like, David, do you have an idea? And he's like, well, it's Mental Health Awareness Month. Why don't we talk about how that's messing with us? It's quite brilliant. Every now and then he gets to have his moment to shine and
yeah, here it is.
So to make things even easier to give us information to share besides just our own anecdotes, which granted could go off the rails quickly.
Mm-hmm.
We did ask a tool that we're really happy with using called perplexity.ai. And
yep.
So you've worked with it a whole lot more in depth than I have, but you share that.
So yeah, when all the AI stuff started coming out and I think a lot of people started using ChatGPT kind of like a search engine. You would ask it questions or whatever, and it give you a response. And so it's kind of the next iteration of a search engine was for AI to go out and find the information for you and then bring back all the results, but do it in a better way than what Google has been doing it up to this point. And so I stumbled across Perplexity actually probably a year ago. It was really early on, not long after ChatGPT. And I was like blown away. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, you told me all about it. And I tinkered and never really got deep into it.
Yeah. So this, one of the big problems with AI early on was that it would give you a response, but it wouldn't necessarily give you where it was getting the data from, and it could be wrong and all that. Whereas what Perplexity was doing was basically grabbing all the data that was out there, and it would give you a response, but then it would footnote where it's getting the information from, so you could go and look yourself. Mm-hmm. And so I found that to be invaluable when I was doing research, because it would point me back to where it was pulling that data from. And then I could decide whether or not the source was something that I wanted to use, or was it credible or whatever. But it was just very good. And it's only gotten better as all AI has. So check it out, perplexity.ai. I think it's fascinating how well it works. And so Donna used it for our show notes.
Yeah, so because it so quickly gives you, and now Google has announced basically they're changing Google search to be no longer the search as we've all known forever, but to be like this, where AI kind of evaluates it and gives you some context, and then it gives you, here's, some things to look at. So having that quick ability to include the footnotes, because I never want to use someone else's article and not say I use someone else's article. It gets back to the integrity thing. You want to talk about stressing me out? It's that I forgot to put a link in there, and if you ever find that, please tell me, because that's just not what I'm interested in doing in any way, shape, or form. But that ability to do it. So I just go into, I was like, great, we need some reference. Let's kind of organize our thoughts is what you have to do. Quickly tell Perplexity AI, what kind of angles can we use to discuss the pressures of cybersecurity and privacy managers and Mental Health Awareness Month, to tie them all together. And it gives us this great, discussion about burnout and fatigue in the field, which we're like, oh yeah, we do know about that. The psychological toll of dealing with cyber threats, and the promoting mental health support in the industry. We are big fans of that. And balancing security and privacy with personal well-being. And that is a thing that constant vigilance and diligence that we have to have is, a bit overwhelming. I think we've kind of hit on all of those just in our own discussion, but then it takes it further and it says, here's some more topics to go along with that and some common mental health challenges. So that burnout and fatigue, you take what we already talked about the sheer, even when you're not at work, all of your stuff's still under attack, right? It's not like, the mental health issues never go away when it's not like you can walk away from your job. It's not accounting. the numbers are still going to be there tomorrow. When I used to do things and it was supposed to calculate something over the, I rolled out a whole new change that's going to have to convert data over the weekend. That's different than what it is today. And add to that the staffing shortages and the skills gaps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we're even seeing issues where from an MSP perspective, you tell a client, hey, by the way, you've got a security incident going on. And we as being, I mean, the MSP community at large, we have a fear that we're going to end up, we're going to lose a client. We're going to have lawsuits against us and all those types of things. There's even cases where the MSP wasn't even providing cybersecurity coverage. They were just providing help desk services. And they said, oh, by the way, even though you're not paying us for cybersecurity, we noticed that there's something happening. You need to look at it. And the company not only fired the MSP, but sued them.
Yeah, that's one that I was almost going to talk about. And then I'm like, I just can't.
Yeah, and it's, and this is fresh, so we don't know a lot of the details around it, but just from what's been reported, it's like, you don't need yet another problem that is going to potentially put your cyber defenders against the clients. Like, okay, now if I see something, do I say anything at all? Or do I just say, you know what, you'll figure it out on your own because you don't pay me for that?
I know. And that's the tough spot, especially, when you look at what we do and we keep telling them, look, you're going to be, have this stuff. And we have to worry about documenting the fact that we told them, because that's something I'm constantly worried about. Well, you didn't tell me that was going to happen to me. I tried. So it's a constant, you got to wonder where you're going to land. And have I thought of everything? And am I covering everything? And, again, it gets back to integrity is all I have. And this is, you kind of have that sense of it becomes you. And so that and the sheer lack of people to do the work. And this is not work that you can just say, hey, I'm going to teach somebody to do. No.
Well, that's like, was it a couple of years ago at the boot camp, at the HIPAA boot camp, which is now the Pricek boot camp. One of the people said, we need to start having alcohol served in the morning.
Yeah, I know. I need to, but it's definitely one of those things where you're looking at who can do this. And I constantly, I would love to have some help. Okay.
Yeah.
What thing is it that I would like for them to be able to do? And it's very, very specific. Okay, well, that's like paying someone else my salary, which is, I'm already cutting myself out. I'm one of those business owners that is just trying to do a good job and make a decent living. And there's not a lot of wiggle room in my margin, if there is a margin.
Right.
And so that, and we're not even talking about the stress of being the cybersecurity people in healthcare that are also running a business and have all of the people and their families counting on you to make the right decision. Because remember, one click could destroy the company.
Yep. Now you got me thinking about all this. I need something.
Yeah, I know, right? We need to watch the Beavis and Butthead clip again.
I'm going to start hyperventilating here in a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, we should get through the stress so we can get to the things that help you with the stress, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
There was this one point, and I don't know, David, if you ever, this is back to being honest with, what goes on as far as your mental health, but the imposter syndrome, is kind of what we were just talking about, is you constantly feel inadequate and that you can't do the thing that everybody thinks you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you always, and I talk to a lot of other MSPs, and some of them have a great business, but there often is a common thread of feeling like you don't know as much as you think you know. Everybody else around you is actually doing a better job.
Mm-hmm.
There's constantly that feeling that, like you said, you're not as good as you think you are. But it's not true though, because when you really put it to the test, you're starting to find out, actually, I'm pretty dang good.
look what I just did. Huh?
Yeah. I mean, and so it's just one of those things where your mind often is not your friend. Dr. Daniel Amen, who's a very famous brain surgeon type person,
Great
he
information.
talks a lot about
great information.
He talks a lot about ANTS, which is automatic negative thinking, and just we as humans, we default to that negativity bias where we always feel like we're not good enough, or we're not living up to potential, or we, just whatever it is, we're forecasting how bad things are going to be, even though there's no rhyme or reason as to why. It's we all have this crystal ball. Tomorrow's going to be terrible. This meeting's going to be terrible. I'm going to lose we just default to all these bad things all the time.
Yeah. Fortunately, well, now there is the flip side of that, of the people who think they can do things that they cannot do.
There is that.
and then the rest of us suffer. So I'm not going to leave that part out, that the flip side is there. But it's kind of like that, where you are and recognizing that. Like I said, I spoke at a couple of different things this past week, and you and I mean, I'm out here doing this stuff all the time. I can't, hours upon hours, I've been in front of people speaking in the last just April and May since the boot camp. And that was hours by itself, and then many, many more. So that to me is just another day, right? And I forget, and I'm sitting in, just in the meeting space. They're having a break, and it's, I'm there, a little before, usually like to get there early so that I don't have the stress of trying to get there on time. And, just chit chatting because, I'm bored. So somebody walks by, I'm going to talk to them. Hey, how you doing? But inevitably people will ask, are you nervous? And I'm like, no, that's never my thing. I'm not nervous about the content. I'm nervous maybe about the environment or something working, but knowing what I'm 100% comfortable with what I'm going to say. And
just check my zipper.
Yeah,
and just
go. Right. It was this exact conversation when we were talking about, cause so often I talk or it's like lunch is involved sometimes. Either, or, people are eating or they've just eaten, and everybody's like, are you going to eat? And I'm like, okay, first of all, I would worry about all the stuff in my teeth. Like, I would worry about it, but I wouldn't worry about it, And then you'd be like, oh, I got something in my teeth. Let me fit, I'm sorry. Does anybody have a toothpick? I need to stop what I'm saying.
Yeah. Would you stop sucking your teeth?
Or it would be like, somebody brought it up in this conversation, and they were like, but what if what you ate didn't agree with you? I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, that's even worse.
Yeah, I'll just let him hear my stomach. Yeah, I'll let my stomach growl. But it's those kind of things, that might bother me, make me a little nervous about it, but actually doing it. But that's me. Other people are a wreck over this. They can't sleep the night before. They're worried and reviewing. I'm doing good if I remember to review my slides. To remember what I'm going to say. But it's often hard for me to realize that it's not that easy for most people. And for them to think that I'm overcoming that. I'm overcoming a whole bunch of other things. that you don't know about. But that
Right.
not it. So, but anyway, back to, this kind of talking about the mental health of what we do, but the other things that it brought up were the vicarious trauma and PTSD. And we're not going to go down this rabbit hole because it is very dark, but we have talked about how dark it can be to learn what we have to learn about what these cyber criminals do.
Mm-hmm.
And, our Netherlands mention is it, but there are some really, really bad things that these people do. And we have to know about them and figure out what to do with that knowledge is hard. And then the lack of support and resources, which overall, it's a constant conversation these days that mental health resources are very, very limited, and that needs to change. So the next thing it brought up is how can cybersecurity managers balance their responsibilities with their mental health? And so now we're talking about how can we make this better? We let's just talk about how we make it better. Let's not go down the path of the things that push us over the edge.
Complaining. Complaining helps a lot.
Yeah. Foster a supportive team culture and encouraging open conversation and destigmatizing seeking help. And I try really hard, and I always hope that within my team, they feel they can do that and have those conversations. And we do try to say, look, if you've got to decide between your family and us, your family should come first. Caring for you and your family is more important than caring for the company and our clients, which are still important. I'm not saying they're not, but let's put priorities where they belong from the gate. And having anything that I can provide to do that, that's what I want to do with the team. This is where you say you too, David.
You too, David. Now I'm sitting here thinking like, all right, what am I doing for my team? And I provide them plenty of time off. They have unlimited time off, as long as it's reasonable. Yeah. So I want them to I actually have to force them to take time off.
Yeah.
I give them time off for being on call. I give them time off to go do whatever, and it's all paid. It's all paid time off. Mm-hmm. I give them things every so often, like go get a massage or go to a float tank therapy or whatever it is. I try to help with all those types of things by giving them things that are there to help them decompress. Mm-hmm. And whatever it is. Sometimes it's here, go out. Here's a coupon or a gift card to go out and eat, so you don't have to cook dinner that night for your family or something like that. Mm-hmm. So it's all those types of things just to help them to relax and rejuvenate. Because my job, the way I see it, my job is to support my team. Right. My team's job is support my clients.
100%. My job is to make it easier to do your job.
Yep.
Yep. But then we have to complain to each other. So
yep. I don't have to support you, but I can complain.
I know, right? We don't support. Every now and then, though, we do. We have propped each other up in times of trouble over 9 years. I mean, geez, the stuff we've been through personally is indicative of 9 years.
Yeah, it's probably like most people. There's been times we've had to hit record to put together a podcast when you and I were just barely holding it together. Yeah. for other reasons. Mm-hmm. But, it's a lot of people go through that, but they're not willing to talk about it often. Whereas I think you and I are more willing to talk about it. Yeah. And certainly if somebody asked me, I'll tell them it doesn't bother me because I know that most people are broke, busted, and disgusted. And so I'm okay with telling my stories because most people go through similar things. They're just, everybody's life is not an Instagram reel as much as they put that forward. It's not.
Even if we had an Instagram reel, it would.
I remember one time I was talking earlier about being in law enforcement. I just learned so much during my tenure there doing that. And I remember going through the very wealthy part of town, and I had to go to somebody's house. I don't even remember what the call was about, but I remember walking into this multi-million-dollar house, and this is back in the 90s, and they didn't have any power on.
Yeah.
And I said, is something wrong? And the guy was like, things are tight right now. We just can't pay the power bill. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm sitting at home in my small house with power.
Yeah.
You're like, who's really doing better here?
Choices and consequences.
Yeah. But I say that just to say that somebody told me one time that the difference between the person that's making $50,000 a year and the person that's making $50 million a year is the person that's making $50 million a year has $50 million a year problems. The person that's making $50,000 a year has $50,000 a year problems.
Yeah.
And that's if you're lucky, because if you have $100,000 a year problems on a $50,000 a year income, you're in trouble.
Something's out of balance.
Yeah, but it's all to say that everybody has issues. Everybody struggles with different things. You mentioned earlier, people look at us as business owners and they think we're just rolling in the dough. Whereas I'm sitting there going, I'm petrified that other people and their families are depending on me to pay payroll so that they can have.
Yes.
That is a weight to carry. So anyway, enough said.
No. I mean, this is what we're supposed to, this is what we're talking about is let's get it out there and say, look, you're not alone. And whatever you're going through and whatever this job brings to the table for you, don't think that you got to suck it up and eat that, just that anxiety and those things, which is a great point they have is prioritize your self-care. And, whatever works for you, some people it's, they need to go to the gym. And, I have friends like if they can go to the gym every day, they're going to be fine. Others that, meditation, I got to meditate. And if I don't get to meditate today, everything's off. So whatever it is that helps you cope and take the time off. And if people aren't taking time off, you must make them if you're the leader.
Yeah. Years ago, when my wife and I were having a lot of problems because blended family,
Nacho
comes with issues. She found out that painting ceramics is something I actually introduced her to, but she found out that was her escape because she had to focus on painting, and she could just block everything else out.
Right.
And so that became therapy for her. And it's funny.
Now your house is full of it. Right.
It is slam full. And I can always, I look at it now and I'm like, are you having a bad day? Because you're painting an awful lot of stuff.
Yeah.
She does it more for enjoyment now. But when she first started, it was not only did she enjoy it, which what I'm bringing out here is that find a hobby. But not only did she enjoy it, but she found it therapeutic. So find those things that you enjoy that are also therapeutic.
Yeah, and another one that it brings up that I have to admit, as you get older, everybody's like, oh, you just get too old to do. I have now learned that all of those years where I thought I could catch up on sleep, no. Sleep is like you heal from your lack of sleep. And there's the party sleep, skipping sleep for partying. Yeah. I give myself a little bit more of a break for that, but I spent way more time skipping sleep to work.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. Still guilty of that.
Oh, I mean, the number of times that I would get so into the work I was doing and then realize it's morning and I never went to sleep, or, and there's crises and we have those, but that should not be the norm. But it was for a until just, recently, I was skipping sleep to be able to work more. And
I thought, I thought it was a badge of honor.
Yeah.
Like, I can work on 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
look at me.
They don't need much sleep. Yeah. And we still are trained that way of, you don't need to sleep. You can do, and now it's like, it's so not healthy mentally, especially because your brain has no idea. It doesn't know what's going on once you get to a certain level.
Yeah. Yeah. I recall saying, I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Yeah.
Somebody's like, you're going to get there a whole lot faster. You want to get there a whole lot faster if you don't get some sleep.
Yeah. And it's true. And I probably wouldn't have believed me listening to me now. I don't know that I would have. Well, it's what I got to do. No, you've got to find a better way. But when I was building this business and still running the other business, I was running the other business, or whichever one I was running during the day, I was working on the other one through the night, And so sometimes you have to do those things, but you have to account for that in your decision making. Mm-hmm. It is not good for your mental health or your physical well-being. So I think that's a huge piece. Efficient processes and automation. I don't know about you. We're always trying to figure out how to automate something so I don't have to do it.
Yeah. Automate, delegate, eliminate.
Yep, there you go.
or exacerbate.
A-D-E.
Which one?
The extra E is usually you, right?
Yep.
But don't be afraid to get professional help, professional support, whether it's, support groups that, for people that do your job. I mean, there are different things. And I do try really hard to lead by example and say, look, I'm going to just tell you, I'm not in a good place today. I'm not going to always pretend to be in a good place. And, make it as it calls here, a sustainable and supportive work environment is what we have to do, because the job we do is just everybody's job is stressful because, if it's not stressful, good for you.
Yeah.
You found your niche and just enjoy it. But I think everybody's life is stressful, and you must be working, like you said, constantly to address its impact. And so what's funny is while we were reading this, and one of the points that in one of these articles it brought up was that the bad guys know that we are at this state, and they know the time of day where we've got to be just drained. Mm-hmm. And we're not paying attention. And we already talked about, they know the holidays are a great time. And we're in the summertime holidays. Here we come. This one comes out right after the first one. But I then get smishing pops up during this time. And they're not even trying on this one. But, it's a bank account. Your account's held due to unrecognized payment, and you got to blah, blah, blah. And then complete this, and it gives you a link, and it's a .ru domain name. I'm like, that they don't even think they need to try.
All right. Like, didn't even cover the URL with something else. Anyway.
Yeah. So, I'm like, really? You think that this time of day is so likely that nobody's going to look. They're just going to click. And I'm sure somebody probably did.
Yeah. Well, it was, 10 minutes to quitting time.
Yeah.
for normal folk.
Yeah. Last little bit here. One of the articles from Astra, I'm trying to remember because there were so many really good articles that it gave us. And we've got, of course, all the links in here. But I want to say somebody wrote it from Astra. And it is, the link between cybersecurity awareness and mental health at Astra. Mm-hmm. So, but the person that wrote the article, which, I'm too tired at this point to go look up the name, but the link's there.
Michael Kennedy.
Michael Kennedy. There you go. Ended the article with 4 tips for positive mental health, and I really thought they were great.
Yep.
So let's end with that real quick here. And the first one, we were both like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah. So having thoughts of impending doom does not mean doom is impending. Yeah.
I need to put that sign up above, on the wall over there where I can constantly see it.
That's definitely a t-shirt to wear to a breach.
Oh my God. So. Yes.
Number 2, normalize talking about how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If nothing else, I tell you, there's a lot to be said when people go, I feel better just knowing that I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times I hear that. It's like, I just thought I was the only one going through this. And I'm like, no, you're not that special.
Yeah, you got to say that to yourself for sure.
Yeah. So number 3, do what works for you. And we covered some of these before about going to the gym or meditating and all that.
And you even mentioned
the last one,
it goes with this one. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the last one is reach out to another human or AI who can support you when you need it most.
Yeah. And it brings up the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, 988lifeline.org. Or you can text NAMI to 741-741 or text to 988 or call 988 just to talk to somebody. And it doesn't mean, it just means you are in a place that you need to talk to someone.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you look around you and you don't want to talk to the people around you.
Yeah.
At all.
You're the reason I feel this way.
That, or I can't risk telling you these things because you need me to not feel this way, particularly in our jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I can't go to my employees and talk about a lot of the stuff. It's, it's not appropriate.
No, I mean, it's not going to help them if you go, man, I'm really stressed out about us getting through this month.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to make payroll. What do you think about that?
It's not really helpful.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
But, I'm fortunate with the way that I have things structured. And everybody's like, are you going to hire people? I'm like, no, I like it just the way it is. But that's why. And it's definitely the reason that you need these resources. If you feel like you can't talk to anyone, you have these resources.
Mm-hmm.
So 988lifeline.org, 988 741-741, whatever it is that you find. But also now, a big thing that we think in healthcare could benefit from AI chatbots is to be able to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have to make sure they're secure, which would nut me up. I'm sorry, I just can't even go there thinking about I can't tell them that. But there's a chance we have.
I think that is going to be interesting. And we kind of started with AI. I guess we'll end a little bit on that, but it will be interesting to see how that is being used, because I think there's some potential there, not trying to, get rid of people who are in that industry, because I don't think you can completely do that, but just as a stopgap measure, I think that can be helpful.
I agree. And do whatever it is you need to do to get that help when you need it. Don't keep going down the path you're on. It's not going to solve itself.
Yep.
So
it's not healthy.
Reboot.
But yep. One of the things somebody told me years ago, which has been helpful for me, is they always said, whenever you're feeling whatever it is, the impending doom, always ask yourself, is this true? Is what's happening to you true?
Yeah. And
stop and feel the feelings that you have, and then ask yourself, why are you feeling this way? And is it the truth? And you'd be surprised how many times you're like, no, honestly, it's not the truth. It's my emotions are telling me things, or my mind is telling me things, but it's really not. And for a lot of it, at least for me, a lot of it is what I call the crystal ball thing. I'm expecting the hammer to drop or the shoe to fall. And it's, I'm looking at it going, I got to prepare for the worst, it's going to be terrible. When most of the time, 90%, if not more of the time, none of that ever happens. So I get all bent out of shape for no reason.
Now, do not discount yourself if you are in a place where you should be alert.
Yeah.
And we do not want you to stop being vigilant and diligent when it comes to the cybersecurity awareness and any of these other things. Safety is still an issue. Patient safety is still an issue. So we are in no way saying push that aside. We're saying find a way to deal with the fact that it can get out of control because of what we do. And I'll just end with the ancient Stoics had, Stoicism is something, and you and I have talked about it many times. I believe it has helped me a great deal in many, many times. If I can ever get my brain to slow down, reboot, and think it through, whatever I'm experiencing and what's happening to me right now falls in one of three buckets. One bucket is something I can't do anything about. Then stop. I can't change it. What I can change is how I'm going to deal with it. And that's the thing I have all the control over. And then the middle thing is where I have some of the control, and that's the worst part for people like me and you.
Yeah.
But figuring out how to navigate that. But absolutely, most of the time when you're really feeling out of control, it's because you can't do anything about it. I can't make the bad guys stop attacking us. I can't. I can't make the people who think I'm being ridiculous about how bad the cyber threats are to get them to up their game and stop acting like it's the same HIPAA that was passed and in 2005 came out, 2007. We can't get that. We can only try.
Yep. That in and of itself is frustrating.
Say no more.
Yeah. All right, folks, that is our show for today. Thanks for listening. Be sure to prioritize mental health, not just during the month of May, but all year long. Go up to some of your people and just say, just want to make sure you're all right. Are you okay? What can I do to help you?
And sometimes you just need to call and say, hey, just wanted you to know I was thinking about you. That's it. Nothing else. Just wanted you to know I was thinking about you.
What was you thinking, Donna?
I was thinking, I can't believe I'm still doing this with you.
Or if you do want to do it like I do it, which makes people very uneasy, you say, I was in the shower the other day and I was thinking about you. And then
there we go.
And the look on the face is always priceless. So anyway, remember that HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
Help me with HIPAA. Let's get it right. Protect your patients. Day and night. Donna and David, the experts on your side. Help me with HIPAA. Let's get it right.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.